Chat room. Domination 101, an article series by Seth Killian. One thing about this article you'll notice is that it's extremely rude. And there's a great question here that many newer SRK readers have just read Domination 101 and are often surprised by the rougher tone than post-Capcom Esco. Why were you so mean? He says, that's actually a big question. There's two primary reasons. SF culture online came from a place where everybody thought they were the best based on some very local experience. I think it's hard for people coming in the scene in the past few years to understand just how confused everybody was back then about basic concepts. I remember flame wars over whether jumping roundhouse, crouching roundhouse was a combo. Lots of people thought you could block it if you were fast enough. And he says, I'd never fault anyone for being wrong. A lot of concepts are extremely complex and there was no way to get solid info, but they weren't just wrong. They were wrong, loudly wrong, and in the majority. The experimental tools were terrible, no info from publishers, no good way to consistently test things, and no way to share videos even if you did find something cool. You got a bunch of fucking idiots who are really loud talking about fighting games who didn't know what they were talking about. And in some cases, it's not their fault. There is no way to know these things, like just no info. I just thought that was interesting to bring up before we get into this. Is this an eye exam? Yes. Domination 101 on cheapness. Question, why is it that you Shoryuken fools, Shoryuken the website, the forums, seem to think that playing cheap is cool? You should be a man and take a stand against lamers for honorable play. Name withheld out of mercy. Ah, the call of the scrub. They bleed out... I'm going to say bleed. They bleed out something like this to attract others of their sad species, known in layman's terms as losers, who will feel sorry for them, and commiserate about the unfair tactics of the shamefully dishonorable tormentors, more commonly known as winners. They play the game in a little world of make-believe where they all aspire to earn the respect of their fellow losers and to play with honor, even though no one's quite sure what that means. To this day, I have no idea what playing with honor means. How did they get so confused? Why do they hold on to such silly ideas? Far be it from me to actually be able to penetrate fully the dark workings of the mind of a scrub, but in an attempt to get a better feel for what they're talking about here, if anything, I'll try and analyze some apparent commonalities between the wide variety of things called cheap. This is the definition here of something that's cheap. I was not kidding when I said these were aggressive and vitriolic. They go in. Ever notice that no one who just loses all the time ever gets their style called cheap? No matter how you play, no one seems to care much unless you're winning. Trying to figure out what your opponent's actually doing or what their playstyle is, that just seems downright impossible since what's cheap seems to change all the time. Just wait until you're losing a lot. Then rather than experience the fear that you might have to figure something difficult out, you can rest assured that the reason you are losing is because you were the victim of cheap tactics. If you want to ensure that you never accidentally play cheap, just don't win too much. Everyone knows that not winning too much is a proud tradition amongst all honorable players. Cheap tactics violate the sanctity of blocking. Apparently the thinking is when I'm blocking, no one should ever be able to hurt me no matter what. It's like when a kid throws a blanket over their head and they're like, oh, the ghost can't get me now. That's the same way it works. Where this idea came from is anybody's guess, but the scrub still feels somehow especially violated when he's hunkered down. But it's a fighting game, not a blocking game. Well, so what? What is it about the block that makes the scrub feel he's entered the magical happy land of no damage, no worries, and no threats? It just isn't true. It was never true, of course, although enough people insisted on playing make-believe for so long that they almost believe it now. The reason the Capcom designers didn't make blocking completely impervious to damage is extremely obvious. If they had, the game would have been reduced to a question of who could hit who first, then block like a madman for the rest of the round. That would suck. So instead of abandoning the first make-believe rule that led them into this mess, they tack on another make-believe rule. Rule 2, too much blocking is also cheap. How much is too much? It's, God damn it, I know it when I see it. I can tell when someone's being a cheap block spammer when I see it with my own eyes. Have you guys seen this still on Scrub Quotes? This guy just blocks everything like a goddamn idiot. I hate this guy. The Scrub has dug himself deeper into a pit of nonsense, trying to cover up for the initial nonsense. They will never admit they were wrong, often making desperate appeals to this being their opinion as if that makes what they're saying somehow less stupid. Editor's note, it doesn't. Can't win too much, can't block too much. The obvious appeal of this highly stupid approach is that it's easy, whereas learning, for instance, to counter-throw effectively is very hard. It's also amazingly stupid in the way it seems to imply that the skill in a game is being able to do a move or a series of moves, rather than understanding that it's seeing when to do a move that counts. This is still something people run into. How often do you see people say, oh, I watched this game, I can do everything in that game, I can do the combos and stuff. These pro players, these players that are good, they're not even that good. They're not even thinking about when to do these things and why to do these things, and the reasoning before why they might be difficult. The Scrub wants everybody to conform to their ideas instead of thinking. Although it may be surprising, I think it's pretty obvious that there is, at least hypothetically, such a thing as cheap. Imagine a regular SF game where joystick and 6 buttons. Now imagine a 7th button available on each side, labeled win, and you're notorious for hitting that button. I'd be particularly willing to admit that doing so were cheap. If enough stuff like that finds its way into a game, then it's simply a bad game. Cheap tactics kill with minimal effort. In this respect, they're difficult to distinguish from just plain good tactics, which are aimed at making you efficient, effective winners. Stuff that's simple and straightforward and effective, people do not like that. They're like, boo, this guy is just doing this one thing over and over. I hate it. A tactic is great when it kills efficiently, but can justifiably be called cheap when it kills too efficiently. It's Capcom's job to provide games that are fun for a wide range of playing ability without allowing the game to become transparent and degenerate into simplistic routes for winning, and capable of holding serious players' interest. That's something we talk about a lot, right, in terms of fighting games. You want a wide variety of playstyles without allowing the game to be too easy to see why you should just make all the decisions you should do, why you should just do all the stuff you're going to do. And there's got to be a little bit more in there. There should be efficient strategies and ideas, but they shouldn't be so simplistic. Cheap is an aesthetic judgment. When you claim something is cheap, what you're really saying is that the game would be better without it. Sometimes people can be right about such judgments, as in the case of obvious bugs and glitches. The best way to tell whether something helps or ultimately hurts a game is to play the hell out of it. If it really turns out to detract from gameplay, then avoid it, fine. But you'll never be able to decide that if you don't play it to the fullest to begin with. Remember, when you claim something is cheap, especially if it's something that the designers clearly intended to be there, you're attempting a very sophisticated judgment. Since most of you are morons, this is usually a very bad idea. Let's take a look at examples that are most often and wrongly declared cheap by scrubs. 20 years ago? Well. Yeah, that was not a tournament legal word, but people said it for forever. Goomba is definitely a better word there. The other thing about this article that's fascinating to me, and all the Domination articles and looking back at them, so many of the things that are brought up in these articles are still common today. The idea that aesthetically, if you think you can do everything in the game, you think you're as good as everybody who's playing it at a high level. It's so fascinating to read these articles and see that the exact complaints from 20 years ago about people being like super stupid about their arguments are still there. So many people think that way. Nowadays, if you say some stupid shit, you just get posted on scrub quotes and your friends make fun of you for being an idiot and you're like, well, it be do. These days, it's much easier to call someone a scrub quickly. You have more effective measures of measuring them against other scrubs. You can be like, well, look at what this scrub said, and you just said it, so get smoked. How long have throws been cheap? And how long have throws remained cheap? The thing is that at their core, most fighting games, there's only 2 kinds of mix-ups, really. There's only 2 real things to look out for: strike and throw. Now, some games, it really does feel like strike or throw. And that's a game like maybe like Street Fighter 5 is a game that feels a lot like strike or throw a lot of the times, right? Those are the 2 main options. Some games like Marvel or something are so fast-paced that throws are not really, they don't feel strike or throw as much, but I mean, they're trying to find the strike, they're trying to find the throw. Like, those are the main 2 options, right? And in most games, especially games that are slower than something like a versus game, the throw and the strike need to be combined, because without them, you have no mix-up. If it's only strike and the mix-ups aren't fast, you'll defend everything. If it's only throw, I mean, you just break every throw, right? Cross-ups, strike. Overhead, strike. Tick throws, tick throw is hit into throw. You guys misunderstand. Hit or throw. As for keep away tactics being cheap in MVC2, please, this only reveals how little you understand. Not only of MVC2, but SF in general. Let's be honest. If you're playing a zoning character and somebody makes it in on you, you're like, this guy's an idiot. He's just mashing. He's not even thinking. He's just running at me with his face. If you're playing the offensive character against the zoner, you think, this guy's just, he's got this keep out move. It's so good. He doesn't even know the thing. He just hits one button and keeps me out. This guy is so stupid. He's not even smart. His just character is just so stupid. His style is so stupid. You know what I mean? The fireball is the key feature behind all high strategy in SF game, and one that's been sorely missing from most of the Versus series. Complaining about his return in MVC2 only shows that you are the arch scrubs you are. Damn. He called him an arch scrub. It also completely fails to appreciate any real character variety. Also, scrubs, do not give yourself the undeserved break that comes with thinking keep away players only play that way because they're not good enough to do combos. The timing and precision involved in a really good keep away trap is typically far in excess of all of the most difficult trick shot combos. Trick shot? Damn, 360 no scope? Also, since there are no airtight keep away games, You have to be on your toes to play that game. You must think dynamically and react to the adjustments your opponent is trying to make. This article is sponsored by Big Zoning. I don't like zoning necessarily, and I don't like rushdown characters. I like playing mid-range characters. Do people even know what pixies are anymore? No. I only know about the term pixie because I read an MVC2 game facts guide a long time ago. They're like low health, super fast rushdown characters. So like the Game Facts article, they called Magneto a pixie. Strider is a good example. Like glass cannons, sure, yeah. Is Wolverine a pixie? He's too unga. Every time I think of Wolverine, I just think of Justin playing Marvel. And I watched Marvel 3 matches, and for years, Justin Wong did jump forward block, regular jump. He couldn't even be bothered to do down up. He literally did dash, jump, block, call Akuma. That's all he did in that game. Literally it. And he won Evo. He did ABC launch, ABC spike, team super. He never even needed to super jump. He just did regular jump, block, call Akuma over and over and over. He was never like, I'll try super jump, dive kick. Nope, I'll just jump and block. Yeah, I mean, the combo is actually like with Wolverine, you do the BAB and it like, it brings them in. And then you can do the same air series in an H and a drill claw and the dive kick. But anyway, it's the same idea. You just do that into team super and you win, GG. X-Men, yeah, that's good. Block damage. Chip damage? People think chip damage is cheap, huh? It is harder to hurt their opponent while they're blocking or while they're not blocking. Then how can you say dealing out major block damage isn't skilled or it's harder to do? The ability to deal substantial amounts of block damage is critical in a game with as much play area to hide in, i.e. Turtle, as you have in versus games. There clearly is such a thing as cheap. But historically, most people are too stupid to be able to determine just what that is. Instead, it gets used as a crutch for players too weak to play the game seriously in the first place. Yeah, I mean, you need chip damage. Although, lately, chip damage doesn't kill you, right? It doesn't murk you anymore. It used to be like a thing for a long time that like in anime, certain anime games you couldn't get chipped. But now it feels like every game has decided that no chip damage is the way to go. Just FD, LOL. Hey, if you play the new game, you don't have to FD at all. You just jump, you can air block. The Boomer article, these are old Boomer articles, for sure. But they still apply. A lot of the ideas in these are still things you hear people bring up. Back in my day, that game was great and all these new games suck. And it just cracked me up because it's the same discussion just repeating in a circle. Hey, I'm a social rollback warrior, all right? I'm the SRW. Don't you fucking forget it. Listen. The my dad can beat up your dad thing is the funniest shit in the planet to me. Sajam banned for comments against dads. We found out Sajam was threatening everybody's dad. He was at Combo Breaker saying, hey, I'll beat your dad's ass to everybody he could see. Imagine Sajam got canceled because of the call for rollback. You're not that far off.